is Unit 2. And just a reminder, you're going to be keeping all of these in your 1.5-inch APDC U.S. History notebook. So let's go ahead and get started. The American Revolution, we finished up pre-Columbian and colonial times, kind of ended with the French and Indian War and all that kind of good stuff, and you should be seeing the seeds of the American Revolution already starting. So let's go ahead and get this started. The American Revolution. Now this slide isn't on your notes, but you know what? I definitely want you to see it, and you'll notice up at the top I put join or die. Ever heard of that before or seen this? What you are looking at is the very first political cartoon in American history. And here might be a really, really good quiz question for you. The artist of it is none other than Benjamin Franklin. Now, this cartoon, long story short, we're going to talk about it in class. It's parts of a snake. Of course, the head is New England, if you'll notice. Of course, the parts are the colonies, and the message is clear. Join together or die. And a lot of people actually find that they think it's about the American Revolution. It's not. It was about the French and Indian War and about the Albany Congress, and the Albany Congress was the very first attempt to kind of unify the colonies during the French and Indian War. So it's pretty important to know. Might be a good quiz question as well. I don't even think y'all need to know this, or I'm sorry, not know this, write this down. Pretty sure you already know it. King George III is going to be a strong supporter of taxing the colonies. He's a mercantilist king. He believes that the colonies are responsible for the debt incurred by the French and Indian War. He taxes them, they get pissed, he opposes any compromises. Kind of interesting fact, after he loses the colonies, he will go insane and have to basically be put in one of those padded rooms. Good to know. King George III. I'll expect you to know if you want to write it down somewhere. But, oh yeah, that's right. Another meme. If you having monarchy problems, I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but a king ain't one. Of course, that's none other than George Washington. I know he said that. I bet you do too. Now, here is your first slide. Let me let you pause it, get it down, and then listen. Okay, remember how this goes. Pause, get it down, listen. All right, George Grenville, go ahead and circle that name, is going to be basically the representative from King George III to the colonies, and he is going to institute what he's going to call the Grenville programs. 1763, you might want to underline that, 63 right there. That is, of course, the Treaty of Paris that marks the end of what war? French and Indian War. Okay, that's my first Treaty of Paris. And these are going to be some of the most insulting things to the colonies. Now, writs of assistance, as you get these down, I want you to make sure you know what these are. The writs of assistance, I need you to write down. You ready? You ready? Unlimited search warrants. This is to prevent smuggling. Proclamation line of 1763, and we're going to see a map in just a second. It's a line that the colonists can't cross to prevent them from getting to the Indians. The Sugar Act, I think we know this, a tax on sugar. The Currency Act, saying that the colonies had to use British currency and the British could control their currency. The Quartering Act, I'm pretty sure y'all know what that one is. Redcoats can be quartered in your home. No privacy there whatsoever. And the Stamp Act, again, I'm pretty sure y'all know this one as well. This is a tax on legal documents, even playing cards or stamps. So these are the Grenville programs, and they are put in place. What caused the need for them? Well, the British had a debt to pay from the French and Indian War. They felt the colonists needed to pay for it. So these programs are going to severely anger the colonists. And the colonists have been doing whatever they want. Salutary neglect. Remember, proclamation line right here? They said, don't go past this, colonists. Well, isn't that why we fought the French and Indian War, the colonists say? But here's the deal. If the colonies go past this line, then who's waiting over there? Indians. Then they have to send redcoats. I said the British have to send redcoats. That costs what? Money. And then you have to tax them more. Now here is the next slide. Let me let you get this down. Pause. Get down. All right. The hated stamp tax, and this one is really the one that sends them over the edge. A tax on legal documents, playing cards, paid for the debt. Here is where you start to see the saying, you guys know it, no taxation without representation. Now here's the deal. It says Samuel Adams on there, and I want you to make sure you understand that Sam Adams is going to lead the charge. But there is going to be another guy who is going to take, he's going to say actually, this as well to begin with as well. And his last name was Otis. I want you to write that down. It's going to be a really good quiz question. I might ask you it. But with this stamp tax, the British tax collectors are going to go around and try and get this stamp from all these stamp taxes from all these regular people. They're going to be angry with them. They tar, they feather them. I don't know if y'all have ever seen this right here. This is a pretty symbolic thing, okay? And of course the Liberty Tree right here. They're going to have to hang the tax collector. The stamp tax actually is going to push the colonies over the edge. It's actually going to create a hidden group. And this hidden group is super important to know, the Sons of Liberty. Now, here's the deal. The Sons of Liberty, and here's the next slide. You might want to pause it, get it down. The Sons of Liberty are going to be a secret group. You have 2 blanks on your notes. 2 of the most important members of the Sons of Liberty, Samuel Adams and Paul Revere. They are going to organize, threaten, tar, feather, burn stamps, stuff stamp collectors. Later would be responsible for the Boston Tea Party. You might want to highlight or circle that. That's going to be maybe a quiz question. Their most effective protest is definitely boycotting. But while the Stamp Act Congress is going to come together in 1765, I need to circle that one, it will deny that Parliament could tax us. I will tell you that Parliament basically brushes them off and says, we don't care what you say. But the British will upset the colonies again just a couple years later with the Declaratory Act, and that's down here at the bottom. You want to star that, which said that Britain had the power to legislate the colonies in all cases. So basically, it slaps the colonies down again and says, you will follow what we say. Down here, this is a really good quote. If our trade be taxed, why not our lands, our produce, in short, everything we possess? They tax us without giving us legal what? Representation. Remember the saying, no taxation without representation. The colonies are getting a little big for their britches. They're the kids that are starting to lash out at the mom, and the mom's starting to get upset. Here are just some really interesting pictures. I'll show them to you in class. Samuel Adams and Paul Revere's grave in Boston, Massachusetts. Those are my pictures. All right, Boston Massacre. I don't know if you guys even need to be told what it is, but pause it, get it down, tell you a little bit. Okay, so Boston, Massachusetts, heartland of patriots. Okay, extremely high tensions, and Boston was one of the biggest trading ports, and one of the places that got used to smuggling. And so when England latches down on her colonies, they really aim at Boston to begin with. In fact, when I went to go visit Boston, I took some tours. They said that in 1763, there was 1 redcoat for every 5 people in Boston, okay? And then by the end of the American Revolution, or when the Boston Massacre kind of started, I should say, the end of the lead-up, I should say, they had literally 1 redcoat for every 1 Bostonian. So it was almost like they were invaded. Well, these tensions hit a high point in March 1770, first time British shed colonial blood. You guys know the story. The colonies would never, ever improve after this. And there is a picture right here. Of course you've seen this before. The Bloody Massacre is what it was called. And I always think it's real interesting. This might be a good quick question. Paul Revere is actually the author or the artist of this, but this is propaganda. I need you to make sure you understand what propaganda is. It is definitely an advertisement used to persuade people. So after the Boston Massacre, nothing would ever be the same again. Obviously, this looks like the British are taking and massacring the colonists, and the colonists were just standing there. I mean, goodness gracious, there's even a puppy. The British are monsters, okay? Very, very interesting to see this portrayal. And this is basically what gets spread throughout the colonies, and this is where the revolution really kind of steps off. Here's the Boston Massacre site. I'll show you it in class. Tea Party. Next step. Pause it, get it down. All right, now after the Boston Massacre, basically there's a lockdown. But there's also a lockdown because of the Tea Party, because the Sons of Liberty, make sure we know that, Sons of Liberty, our secret group, Paul Revere, Samuel Adams, they're going to revolt against this Tea Act that was put in place. Actually, not one of the Greenville programs, but we all know what it is. It's a tax on tea. But here's the other thing it is, and a lot of people don't know this. It was a monopoly on tea, and that might be a question I ask you. A monopoly is one company that owns the entire market. So England said that if you're buying tea, and these British, they love their tea, and the colonists, they love their tea with their pinky finger up. Okay, they're tea and crumpets. It makes it illegal for them to buy any non-British tea, and the East India Company had a monopoly. They also forced the colonies to pay 3 cents on every single pound. And to you and me, that sounds ridiculous. Like 3 cents, okay, I can pay that. But back then, when, tea was only like 5 cents a pound and then they put a 3 cents on a pound, I mean, that's a lot of money. So the colonists had to buy their tea from the East India. It gave a monopoly. And again, the colonists cry out. What do they cry out? No taxation without representation. And the Sons of Liberty start stirring the pot. So they dumped 342 chests into Boston Harbor. Actually saw the place they did this. The water didn't smell like tea anymore. It kind of smelled like rotten fish. But here's the picture. And of course, the Sons of Liberty dressed up as what not to be recognized? None other than Indians. Shocking. Right. Coercive acts. Next slide. Go ahead and get it down. You got a little bit to get down. Pause it. Okay, now I'm going to call these the coercive acts. It's the technical name for it. But I am telling you right now, after the Boston Massacre and after the Boston Tea Party, the British have had it with these colonists. So Mama is going to ground the kiddos, okay? No more salutary neglect. They are pissed, and they come down, and they close the port of Boston. That's what you're going to circle. Close the port of Boston. Now, I need you to think about something. If I close the port of Boston, well, we can't trade. And if I close the port of Boston and we can't trade, we can't pay, well, for anything. And can anybody pay us for anything? Oh, wait, it stops the flow of what into the colonies? Money. And here is the deal. The end-all, be-all of history. You want to know the easiest way to make somebody mad? Mess with their money. And they will get more mad than you've ever seen them so quick. Now, the colonists, these coercive acts that closed the port of Boston, they said they were so horrible, they called them the intolerable acts. And they said, there is no way we're dealing with this. They're getting angrier and angrier. And you start to see that it's all leading up to something extremely, extremely hostile. Now, after the intolerable acts are called, they're going to call the First Continental Congress. So a group of colonials meeting together to see if they can repair this. Which is ironic because a lot of the times we think that the colonials, they didn't want to repair it, but they actually did. So let me pause this and let you get it down, and I'm going to tell you some things to annotate. Okay, so the intolerable acts, they took away Boston's trade. So everybody sent somebody to the First Continental Congress. Well, I say everybody. There was one. There was one colony that didn't send anybody. If you watch Crash Course, you'll find out which one it was. It might be a good bonus question. Now, the colonial representatives meet in Philadelphia, and they are directly in response to the intolerable acts. There is a cause and effect here, okay? The main goal was to try to negotiate with King George and Parliament. A lot of people think that the colonials were like, no, 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 we're just going to revolution. The colonials did everything possible to try and avoid the revolution. The main goal was to try and negotiate with King George. A lot of the rich wanted to make sure the king was still on their side. The king was the flow of their money. But one thing that is starting to happen in the colonies is this independent spirit, this educated spirit, the Enlightenment. Everything is coming about deism, natural rights. And they start thinking of themselves not as British colonists, but as, well, Patrick Henry says it, I'm not a Virginian, I'm an American. It's at the end of the First Continental Congress that they actually send a document. Make sure you highlight Declaration of Rights and Grievances in 1774 to King George and Parliament. But King George, he responds very, very simply to their, hey, can we work this out, Declaration of Rights and Grievances. You'll know what a grievance is, right? A complaint, okay? King George basically replies back and he says, nope, not interested. In fact, so much so that he moves all of his troops, 1763, the end of the French and Indian War, 1770, to the big cities. He definitely, oh, look at Boston, says, I think you're getting out of control. Definitely is going to start paying attention to them. And it's probably going to be one of the things that causes this. Pause it, get it down. I bet you've already heard of it. The shot heard round the world. April 18th, 1775. What's going on is Lexington and Concord. First military action of the Revolution. Massive circle around this. But it's even more interesting to find out that the Redcoats were coming to Lexington and Concord actually to find Samuel Adams, but also to seize stolen weapons, quote unquote. Search and seizure. Remember those writs of assistance, unlimited search warrants? They wanted all the guns. So ironically, you want to know what the English do? or I'm sorry, the colonists do, they write in the Second Amendment to the Bill of Rights because they don't ever want this to happen again.